Right, a very good evening to you and welcome to News Sources. On a night when Wiper leaders have promised an absolute gender balance in a Wiper administration, I am Julie Masiga.
Indeed, and we are moving quickly into campaign mode as the country gears up for next year's election. I'm Sharon Momanyi. Let's have a look at the highlights tonight.
In the next few minutes, all nurses across the country will start streaming back to their places of work.
ICC ilionea Uhuru Kenyatta huruma. Kwa hivyo yeye natakana atoe pongezi na shukrani kwa ICC.
Rais huyu ametoa ahadi ya 50% government baina ya kina mama na wanaume.
Now, as doctors stick to their guns, it is relief for patients across the country after nurses called off a 9-day strike after reaching a deal with the government. The Kenya National Union of Nurses, through Secretary General Seth Panyako, called off the strike this afternoon following a meeting with officials from the Council of Governors and the Ministry of Health. Calling off the strike, Panyako said they were very happy to have reached a deal that would be included in a collective bargaining agreement that would be hashed out beginning January 2017.
What the governor has said is true. We have reached an agreement, and the small issues that the National Governing Council for the Nurses Union had raised have actually been handled, and those that have not been handled, we have agreed in a letter commitment from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Health, that they will be handled during the harmonized collective bargaining agreement that is going to be negotiated beginning 1st January 2017. So I can humbly say that in the next few minutes, all nurses across the country will start streaming back to their places of work as we continue to sign the recognition agreement, because we have no any other reason to keep our nurses out of their places of work.
Of course, what we are witnessing here is a very good occasion, which we are doing under a very bad cloud of our Kenyans not receiving services. And therefore it is both a joy and a sad moment. But we intend to focus on the good side so that we take this process forward.
Right. So just yesterday, you'll recall, they rejected a 7 billion shilling deal signed by the Deputy Secretary General, and today, magically, my favorite word of the season, they've signed this deal and they're going back to work. So is this a betrayal of doctors? And before I start, let me just introduce my guests. Right by my side is Faith Rono, communications specialist, and right next to her is friend to the show, frequent panelist, Betty Waitherero, political researcher, and of course, co-host Sharon Momanyi. So this smells of, in my opinion anyway, it seems that this deal came under some kind of shroud of mystery, because yesterday they were not agreeing at all and today they have agreed, and now they're back to work, leaving their compadres out there still fighting rights. Faith, what do you make of this?
I kind of agree with you, Julie, because just a day after they actually refused to take the 7 billion deal, today they signed almost the same deal. And of course, Panyako had very critical issues that he raised, and he was saying that the members of the NGC, some of the officials, had actually been left out, which is a very valid concern. But I think my thoughts are that I think it's a move in the right direction, considering the fact that, we've been in a crisis for close to 10 days. Actually, I think it's 10 days today. And so it's a sigh of relief for thousands of patients. Remember, we've lost about 40. But considering the fact that doctors are actually not back is another critical issue that we probably need to look at. And so this is, for nurses to come back, it is really a move in the right direction. But whether there were issues with the deal, I don't know, but I hope that this agreement, and remember this was a CBA that was existing, now captures all the critical issues, because as it is, it's not just about the remuneration, nurses, definitely they're going to get about 15 to 20,000, increase in their salaries right now. But also there are other critical issues that have been raised by nurses. Remember, they're talking about their working conditions, the promotions, the job grades. And so I hope that, those issues have been captured. But also, Panyako was just here, I think a few minutes ago, clearly mentioned that nurses can only do so little, They cannot handle, critical health issues that could actually be handled by doctors. And so that leaves us in some sort of, confused state, because as much as we have the nurses now back, which would actually solve some of the problems that we have, we still have the doctors, going on. I hope that, really we can resolve the issue.
Yeah, and you speak about a 15,000 to 20,000 increase, but the deal is not complete yet.
Yeah.
They're still going to negotiate come January 2017. One question, what happened to Solidarity Forever with their doctor colleagues? And also, what makes them believe that the government is going to act in good faith come January 2017?
And those are very critical questions. One of the things that I found surprising, especially because this happened on Sunday, is when John B. goes out there and he was very harsh on Seth Panyako, and he talked in, I would say, the very cruel terms, frankly speaking, talking about how one person cannot, determine the fate of the entire union. And at that point I said, something has happened here where the interests of the nurses have been sidelined because of one or two officials who have decided to, play the game with government. The idea of 20,000 shillings increase to me is nothing, honestly speaking. Some nurses are, the nurses are different pay grades, of course, but you're having nurses earning 20,000 shillings. So now you're increasing it to
But remember,
40,000.
they asked for between 25 and 40% increase compared to 300% for the doctors. So perhaps that's within the range of what they were asking for.
I still don't think it's fair, because all you've done is you've adjusted their tax bracket. I think that they deserved more. It's a pity if they didn't ask for more. But more importantly, you're asking about solidarity. You have to remember that the nurses union had not gotten recognition agreements with the Council of Governors, and especially I'll give the example of Kenyatta had not agreed to recognize them as a union, which critically affected the nurses at Kenyatta. Every day that they were on strike and every day that they did not turn up at work, the chances of them losing their jobs was quite high. So I can see that the reason why they'd want to go back to work because their jobs are at stake. And unlike doctors, the nurses are more likely to be replaced by other nurses out there. So in that regard, I can understand them looking out for their own interests as a union. However, what the doctors had asked for in their CBA also encompassed the rights of nurses and the interests of nurses. And I think in that regard, the nurses union has taken a raw deal in comparison. And I'd say yes, there is relief for thousands of patients. And as Faith has pointed out, there's only so much nurses can do, because you do need the critical care provided by doctors and the specialists. But at the same time, there's that relief. But
actually, some people argue that when the patients are actually diagnosed now, they go down to needing the nurses now for their day-to-day care, and saying that actually this could be a bigger step to saving more lives than, I don't know how strong that argument is, but all around a big sigh of relief, for Kenyans to have the nurses
a
right
bit of
back.
healthcare back in the public sector, because people were suffering.
Right. Okay. I bet we have to move on now, and let's talk politics now. And it is becoming increasingly clear that the National Super Alliance is a wave that cannot be ignored. During the Wiper National Delegates Conference held yesterday, CORD leaders Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, as well as ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi, presented a united front in the resolve to see President Kenyatta sent home. But without an agreement on which presidential candidates to front, is this really a united opposition agenda?
Now, we must come together and dispassionately agree on a single presidential candidate for the 2017 elections.
8 months to the elections, we are stronger and more united than ever, ready to face the Jubilee as an expanding opposition.
Nitakuja ili tudhibitishe kwa Wakenya kwamba kuna jukumu kubwa la kuhakikisha Wakenya wanaondoa serikali ya Jubilee.
Right, so they say they're stronger, the opposition is stronger than ever, and of course, various ways of looking at it. They say they are strong. They don't even have a candidate yet. Each of the gentlemen there vying or intending to be on the ballot on the presidential ticket. What is your assessment, perhaps, of this ends? Is this a wave that could actually send, President Uhuru and Ruto?
It's unlikely, because if you just do the electoral maths of it all, the strongest candidate among them is Raila Odinga. So anyone else being put on the ballot from the opposition would mean that the Uhuru Kenyatta's chances of winning become stronger, because this is a much weaker candidate. Having said that, that means that in my view...
The wave of change isn't something that is sweeping across Kenya, that you want a different face than, Raila Odinga.
But Raila does have he already has the ground support, and he already has the voters' strongholds. He does not, and this I'll say it for free, he does not need Musalia Mudavadi in order to get the Western Kenya votes. He already has those votes. And he does not need Kalonzo Musyoka to get the Ukambani votes.
In that event, then why are they talking about this super alliance? What is the point of all
this? And that's the other thing. I think that Raila, as much as he may not need them he needs the other two candidates for the sake of a national outlook, a national appeal. But these other two candidates you're not halfway as strong as Raila in terms of being able to send Uhuru home. So this is a joke,
But if it doesn't affect the numbers, if really nothing can affect Raila's numbers, then is he wasting time speaking about alliances? Because remember, as he's speaking, he's creating expectation in the electorate.
I have very different sentiments on this issue, and I sort of agree with Betty to some extent. You know that in this country at this point in time, the politics that thrive actually are based on coalitions, and so politicians are looking at a national outlook, and so they would, get somebody from Western, get somebody from Ukambani, from Coast, and that sort of thing. But I think NASA has, they haven't told us the ideology, they have not given us the agenda, but based on the performance,
than sending the current
exactly.
government
And I think you asked Sharon if they don't have a presidential, flag bearer. It's almost obvious that, it could be Raila Odinga. And Mudavadi was, interviewed the other day here on KTN, and he mentioned that he's actually open to discussions, and so it looks like, this the party principles, Kalonzo, Mudavadi, Wetangula, as it were, would be open to discussions. But as it is right now, their political forces, behind them, could not agree to the idea that they are giving up their presidential bid. And so that is why we are having the Musalia Mudavadi, declaring that he will run for president. Kalonzo Musyoka yesterday declaring that he will run for president.
Wetangula did it a while ago as
exactly.
well.
So unless I think they could be having a very strategic conversation on who would actually run for president in that coalition. But if based on the Jubilee performance, and I have to say this, they would actually have a chance, because the 4-point agenda for Jubilee is totally, it's not working, because they had the 4 U's: Umoja, Wazi, transparency, unity, the economy. Kenyans are not feeling that. Kenyans are not feeling it. The economy is exactly.
Okay. Right, but sticking with that Wiper event yesterday, now during that Wiper delegates conference, Senator Hassan Omar took to the podium like many other leaders, but this time he gave a clear indication of what a Wiper administration would look like. The senator says that were Kalonzo Musyoka the occupant of the house on the hill, his government would employ a 50-50 rule to ensure absolute balance between men and women leaders. Can this ever be a Kenyan reality?
Sasa tumefika tamati, kile kipande ambacho sote tumekuwa tukiongojea, hotuba ya mgombea wetu wa rais na atakayekuwa rais wa 5 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Lakini rais huyu ametoa ahadi ya 50-50% government baina ya kina mama na wanaume. So from day one of his government, he shall announce a cabinet of 50-50. Na tayari katika uongozi wake
Sharon, my question is this. Will it make a difference? Because we have seen that there's some stardust at the Houses of Parliament. When you become a politician, something happens to you, whether you're male or whether you're female, you become this new creature called a politician. Will it make a difference to have half women and half men, or will we just see business as usual?
I mean, first of all, we have this third, gender rule just pending. We haven't passed that yet. We can't take it up a notch to 50-50 when we still haven't, at least seen this one, which is constitutional, come to pass.
Right.
And I don't know how that would sell in terms of it being a political strategy. But I mean, I'd go for it. I'd want to see even more than 50% women in Parliament. But I think just a political banter there. I mean, how would you make that work? But my biggest question is we haven't seen that demonstrated yet. I mean, this is just
it sounds like
building castles in the air.
Outrageous campaign promise.
It's just like Kalonzo's bid for the presidency. It just will not materialize. Okay, so now here you are. You're in Wiper Party. Have you even reached the 2/3 gender rule within your political party? You have not even done that 50-50 within your political party. You're within the top echelons of your establishment. You have not even bothered to include enough women for us to notice that there are women in Wiper Party. By the way, are there women in Wiper? And so
there
it's
must
just,
be a woman rep at
exactly.
the very least.
I'm sure that there are 1 or 2 women, women's rep or nominated, but that just shows that the disingenuousness of this claim. It has no basis in reality, and it's just like his bid for president.
But are we being pessimistic? Shouldn't we be out there saying?
No, it's just
I don't
way
think.
to go?
I don't think we we are not being pessimistic. I mean, having seen what has happened in this country, and like Sharon said, we've seen the gender bill, for instance, being shot down in Parliament and in Senate. And I mean, it's just politicians look at women as a soft landing. Women, we will do this for women. And even every new politician would always want to approach women because they feel like it's easier to get a women vote, rather than, I mean, it's a very weird perception if you ask me. But the Constitution provides a very clear framework. The Article 27, I think, provides a very clear framework for gender equity. But we have not demonstrated, even as a country, the MPs that were in Parliament, the senators, are not just Jubilee MPs or Jubilee senators, they're across the board. And they failed to pass the bill, and it looked like it's a women issue. I think that is really one thing that I felt really bad, because women...
It was a gender issue, wasn't it?
Exactly. Women were the ones who were lobbying in Parliament,
Maybe we'd never know until we actually had a
possibility. Yeah, what if he went Wiper by some stroke of luck, got into the house on the hill and he was forming his cabinet, and he just said right down the line there'll be 50% of you will be male and 50% of you will be female. Would that have any do you think that female leadership would have a tangible change?
But where are these women coming from? Like I pointed out, they are not even in the party itself. So where are they coming from? Will he actually collect women from Jubilee or ODM?
Wherever he collected them from, it's a possibility that half his cabinet could be female.
Okay, so let's assume that and this is a big assumption.
Women who are aspiring to be leaders.
Yes, we do.
So he could actually have women as part of his cabinet. That is agreeable. But what would he do? I mean, for instance, in other very influential positions, like the judiciary, for instance, and we had this discussion the other day as to why we do not have enough, the right quorum even at the JSC, women sitting in the JSC. And so he could have women in his cabinet. He could have women in other powerful positions, maybe in parastatals or, whatever. But it still doesn't make sense. I think it's just a political rhetoric. It's just a political speak.
Because I'm sure right now people at home are saying, but what have the women done anyway? They're saying that we have women rep positions, what have they done? We have deputy governors, we have some MPs, we have some senators, and the question always comes up, but what have the women done?
Okay, if you check, there's a website.
That's not a fair...
No, it's not even fair. But if you check, there's a website called Mzalendo Watch, and you'll be given all the things that women MPs have done in Parliament, they have performed. More over and above that, when you don't give them the chance, what do you expect them them to do. How can I work and you have not given me the opportunity to work? You see, and so even him saying, okay, I'll do 50-50, you know, based on what?
He's giving us the opportunity to work, Betty. This is
No,
what
but
I'm
he's
saying.
talking about it, and we can't even see it even in his own campaign. That is the saddest part about it. Why, for instance, if Kalonzo wanted to you know, be 50-50 through and through, then he would say, I want to stand for president, and Julia Odhiambo is my VP. You understand? And I'm just giving an example there.
All right, ladies, we have to fine-tune this discussion now. And in the same conference, Squad leader Raila Odinga declared that Kenya must not pull out of the Rome Statute and thus the ICC. This was after President Uhuru Kenyatta showed the clearest sign yet that Kenya is considering a pullout during the Jamhuri Day celebrations. However, some critics are of the opinion that the ICC card is a political card, one that President Kenyatta would use to strengthen his strongholds. Did Raila Odinga fall for this bait?
Twice, our parliament has passed a motion to withdraw. We have sought the changes that will align the ICC to respect national sovereignty. Those changes have not been forthcoming. We will therefore need to give serious thought to our membership.
Rais Uhuru alisema ati wao kama Jubilee wanafikiria kutoa Kenya kwa mahakama ya ICC. ICC ilionea Uhuru Kenyatta huruma. Kwa hivyo yeye natakana atoe pongezi na shukrani kwa ICC. Si kusema tu Kenya itatoka kwa ICC. Kenya itabaki kwa ICC. Uhuru na wenzake wapende wasipende.
Okay, so here's the theory that this is supposed to be a political narrative, a campaign narrative, one that Raila could have just fallen right into. That the narrative would be, and the conversation would be that, you know, President Kenyatta, you know, pulling out of the ICC. It became at some point a rallying around the flag issue at some point. So would this be a strengthening of his stronghold kind of a thing, like we do not want foreign interference?
Okay, first of all, let's just go back in time a little bit. Yeah, this is this. Kenya's parliament has voted or passed motions to pull out of the ICC twice. And the first time they did it, ODM was a majority in parliament. That means that it's Raila Odinga's own party that supported a pull out the first time. Okay, and then to make matters worse, the irony is having Kalonzo Musyoka sitting there, and he did shuttle diplomacy during Uhuru Kenyatta's first, basically, he is the one
when
who
he
did
was
the
accused of
exactly when he was accused during the profiling of charges. So here we have a situation where the most ironic statements are coming out from the opposition, where they're talking about we will not pull out of the ICC. Well, I don't think you have a choice in the matter anymore. You made the decision twice now, and now it's up to Uhuru to decide. Oh, do I pass this motion and repeal the International Crimes Act, or do I not? I think that Uhuru was delivering a message on foreign policy at that point, and I do agree that to some extent Raila Odinga fell for it. He was trying to put across the deep dissatisfaction not just Kenya has with the ICC, but several other African countries have with the way the ICC conducts itself. There have been several recommendations made to the court, and those recommendations have not been forthcoming. That is their argument.
Is it a problem that Kenya and other African countries have, the people of these countries, or is it a problem that the states have because they want to just run around doing things without being accountable to anybody?
I actually have a different opinion on this. I think of course, the motions have been passed in Parliament, twice. And there was a lot of talk when actually the cases were terminated. I remember when DP's Ruto's case and Joshua Rapsang's case were terminated. That is when we had a lot of talk, especially by parliamentarians and the political class, saying we need to move out of ICC. For President Uhuru Kenyatta to speak about it on Jamhuri Day, and at a time when we are getting to elections next year, for me, I think it was not right. I think it's not the right time to pull out of ICC. Right now, it looks like it's a political strategy, and I would actually say that personally I think ICC really helped even in the 2013 elections. I don't know, I mean, just trying to eliminate tribal clashes that we've seen that are based on elections and disagreements based on elections. So I think it's not the right time for especially the president to talk about it at such a time that.
But do you think it's the right move?
Oh,
then?
yeah. I mean,
time,
we have had discussions.
Movement across the
exactly,
Africa.
It's a movement across Africa. But for us, for the president to talk about it now, it looks like we are trying to run away from ICC just before the elections. And remember, he talks about so many other things, including the international community trying to interfere with elections and
I also
governance
think
issues.
in 2013, ICC was a rallying call. It mobilized his core support base. And this time around, there's not much there's no rhetoric that can get people to wake up in the morning and go and vote. So they're looking for something to just rally that base and get them out feeling perhaps angry again, as really a political strategy against Raila Odinga.
All right on the buzzer there. And maybe at this point, just to point out our Twitter poll tonight, and tonight we're focusing on that agreement that nurses signed today, and we're asking you, have nurses betrayed doctors by agreeing to a government deal? Have nurses betrayed doctors by agreeing to a government deal? Do tweet us your thoughts at KTN News, at Sharon_Momanyi, and at Julie Masiga, #news sources. We shall be sampling your views at the end of this show. We're taking a short break now. Don't go too far. More discussions after that.